from the student media cell, IIM Bangalore, and we have with us Mr. Shankar Aiyar, who needs no introduction. Morning, sir. We're just going to ask you a couple of questions. You've been educated in a lot of premium institutions across the country. So, how do you think, what incentive would we give to alumnus of these institutions to try to induce them to join, say, the public sector or public service and join the government to work for them rather than join, say, plum jobs in MNCs or other companies?
I'm the wrong person to ask this question of, because in my generation, the opportunities were most available in public service, either in the civil service or to a growing extent in the public sector. The private sector was a declining place. And I think it's amusing, but absolutely true, that in my school, if you were a complete duffer, you went to the tea estates and got 4,000 rupees a month. If you were barely passable, then you got a covenanted job with a British firm in Calcutta and got 2,000 rupees a month. And if you were really bright, you went into the IAS and your remuneration was 400 rupees a month. So there was no connection made in the mind between remuneration and ability. In fact, if anything, there was a kind of inverse relationship. I do not begrudge the enlargement and diversification of the Indian economy, which has now made possible this wide range of interests, and also the fact that educational as well as employment opportunities are available in the outside world on a scale that was unimaginable 50 or 60 years ago. One also finds that to a certain extent, the brain drain is also a brain bank. People who go abroad to work particularly, they acquire a lot of experience and then they return to India. Or at any rate, some of them return to India. In any case, our economy doesn't seem to have the absorptive capacity to take in all the best and the brightest that emerge from schools like yours. So, without being judgmental in this, my own preference would have been what it has been, namely to work in India and for India. But if you don't have this kind of xenophobic patriotism, then you wish to go abroad and work there. I don't think one needs to denigrate that or condemn it.
So across all your minister portfolios, what was your greatest achievements or the most defining moment?
Well, being a minister and in 4 different ministries was one of the more disappointing experiences of my life, because one imagines from the outside, and certainly I as a former civil servant used to believe this, that if only I were minister, I could get this done and that done. And when one became minister, one realized that ground realities were far more constricting than any sort of personality questions or even policy questions that may have arisen in the past. I was given not only a portfolio of choice, but an entire ministry was created specially for me, because I had been passionately interested in Panchayat Raj since the days that I was working with Rajiv Gandhi and was involved in the preparation of the constitution amendments. And I thought, because I'd worked very hard on this, I had a very detailed plan ready with me. I began by convening all my ministers from all the state governments 6 times over to take up different dimensions of Panchayati Raj and put together an action plan which all of us would by consensus agree. But I found that the state ministers quite enjoyed going to Guwahati and Kashmir and places like that where I arranged these meetings. But when they came back, they themselves were constrained from implementing whatever it was that had been agreed to by consensus. And then I found that within the central government, there were vested interests of such a strong order that they found that if we were to decentralize power, it would take power away from them. And so their bureaucrats would advise their minister not to do anything so foolish. And there's a general contempt for the people, saying, no, we are the bright guys, we are the ones who went to IIMB, and therefore we know how to run the show, and a total distrust of ordinary people. Whereas it seems to me that it's only a hungry person who knows the meaning of hunger. It's only an uneducated person who knows the value of education. And it's only a houseless person who understands the need for a roof over your head. So why not empower them with authority, with functions, with finances, with functionaries, to be able to run their lives as they believe it should be run. And I think it's the gross failure of our democracy to effectively go below the state level that is responsible for the dilemma of development in democracy, which I'm going to be talking about later this morning.
What would you say would be the role that management students like us in Premier B schools in India could actually play for the development of the country?
You know, we didn't even know this word management when I was at university. And when one of our college mates was admitted to Cornell University to study something called hotel management, then every time we passed him, we'd walk like this because we found it so comical that anybody should actually get a degree for management. So I don't know your profession or your vocation at all. However, it's quite clear from the huge remuneration that each of you is likely to get, whether in India or abroad, that you have skills that are useful. What are those skills? I don't know. I was in something called administration, which I presume has something to do with management. But we learnt our administration on the job. There were no courses to teach us administration, except perhaps at the fag end, when as probationers, we were given some classes. But we learnt hands-on, and I'm not so sure that we didn't do quite a good job of it. So I'm not really sufficiently familiar with what are the skills that are being imparted to you that would be useful to the country. But I don't have any doubt that these skills are useful to the nation. But I wouldn't presume to tell you how it is that you should deploy these skills for the benefit of the nation. But what I would request you and those who are watching this program to do is to rise above yourselves. Yeah, you're going to get a big remuneration anyway. So why don't you take it for granted and work for the country rather than work for yourselves? And you can work for the country in whichever sphere you are.
So any learnings of life you want to share with us?
I don't want to share it with you, but you seem to want me to share it with you, so I'll answer your question. I think one needs to understand, even if you are an IIM graduate, that the future is not smooth. The trajectory is not always upwards. There's bound to be setbacks. There are bound to be at least as many valleys in your life as there will be summits. And therefore, in that recognition, to be persistent, to know what you want and to work towards it. And as you work towards it, you may find yourself, I won't say may, you will find yourself thwarted. And despite being thwarted, to stick to what you believe in and work towards it. And I can only wish you all the best. Most of you won't attain your goals, but some of you will. And that in itself makes the pursuit worth making.
On behalf of the FII, the Forum for Industrial Interaction, the Students Media Cell at IIM Bangalore, we would like to thank you for your valuable time.
Thank you for what has been the easiest interview in my life.